Welcome, brave soul, I am the Forgotten Storyteller. Before we begin, tap that like button if you dare, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're listening from. And if you make it to the end of this video, I hope to see you in the next story. I hope you're ready, because I am. Let's begin. I would just like to say a quick thank you to Sandy Paws for today's story idea. You think you know what's in the box, but sometimes what's in the box already knows you. Our story today begins not in some lonely cabin in the woods, nor in the cellar of an abandoned church, but in the place where most of us feel safest, at home. Her name was Mia Chen, 28 years old, a rising star in the world of lifestyle vlogging. Mia's audience loved her playful energy, her pastel-lit apartment, and most of all, her massive collection of art toys. Rows of vinyl figures, enamel-eyed bunnies, mischievous cats, glossy designer monsters lined her shelves like tiny guardians. And at the center of them all, her prized possessions, a carefully curated lineup of Labubu figurines. Labubu, a rabbit-eared gremlin from the toy giant Pop Mart, beloved by collectors worldwide. Strange, impish, unsettling, yet undeniably cute. To Mia, Labubu was more than a toy. It was an aesthetic, a lifestyle. Her fans came for the unboxings, that ritual moment of peeling away plastic and revealing something rare. But one night, a package came that Mia did not order. It arrived without a return address, wrapped not in bubble mailer or cardboard, but in yellowed parchment, edges brittle like old skin. The paper smelled faintly of mildew and iron, and it was bound shut by a glob of dark red wax, pressed with an unfamiliar seal. Mia tilted her head at the package, bemused. Her camera already rolling for a new video, she laughed lightly. Well, this is extra. Somebody's been watching too many horror movies. But okay, let's see what the fandom god sent me. The knife sliced through the parchment with a papery hiss. Inside, a box the size of her hand, scuffed, black, no branding, no Pop Mart logos. When she opened it, her smile faltered. Nestled inside, resting on a bed of discolored straw, was a Labubu, but not like any she had seen before. Its vinyl skin was a shade too dark, almost bruised looking. One glassy eye gleamed, the other was cracked through the iris, spiderwebbing across its cheek. The grin was wider, sharper, its teeth too defined. And at its base, carved directly into the plastic, was a small, crude inverted triskelion, 3 jagged spirals meeting at a center. A folded scrap of paper fell out, brittle and faintly stained. In shaky ink it read, "She was never meant to be caged. She hungers for sight." Mia chuckled nervously. Okay, somebody went all in on this prank. Very creepy pasta. 10 out of 10 for effort. She winked at the lens, forcing a smile. But as she placed the Labubu among her other toys, a flicker of unease curled in her gut. That night, her camera captured something she didn't notice. While she slept, face bathed in the bluish glow of her nightlight, the Labubu figure sat on its shelf, angled toward the door. Then, in a jittering time-lapse, its head turned, just slightly, until it faced the bed. Mia mumbled in her sleep, restless. The audio glitched. A static hiss. For 1 second, a whisper layered beneath the hum of the room. "We see you." The days that followed began subtly. Mia woke one morning to find her sketchbook open on her desk, its pages filled with messy, frantic drawings of the Labubu doll. Dozens of them. Every page, every angle, all in a hand that wasn't quite hers. She stared at her ink-stained fingertips and laughed nervously. Maybe she had doodled while half asleep. Maybe. At night, faint sounds threaded through the silence of her apartment. The walls whispered with a high-pitched giggling, like a child trying to stifle laughter, except distorted, warped, as if echoing from a long tunnel. Then her toys began to change. Her Pop Mart figurines, usually arranged neatly, were found mutilated. Heads twisted off, limbs bent, arranged in a perfect circle on her floor. She swore she hadn't touched them. Her sleep tracker app showed bizarre readings. According to the data, she had been awake for hours each night, pacing, whispering, though she remembered none of it. By day, Mia's rationality kicked in. She put it down to sleepwalking and stress. Maybe an elaborate prank from someone who had found her address. But by night, paranoia seeped in. She began researching the symbol carved into the doll's base. At first, nothing. Then, buried in forgotten forums and fragments of abandoned blogs, she found something chilling. One post read, "Labubu is not original. It is based on an older myth, a Chinese forest spirit named Labubu, a trickster that lured lost children with laughter, then devoured them. When bound to an object, the spirit became not just a toy, but a vessel, a key that unlocked the gateway." The blog was deleted shortly after. But before the site went dark, a single message pinged her inbox from a faceless user. You opened it at night. You gave it permission. Now it sees through you. Mia froze, staring at the glowing words. She tried to shrug it off, but that night she woke with scratches on her forearms. Deep, angry marks. On her bathroom mirror, written in smeared condensation, were 3 words. She is hungry. And from there, reality began to unravel. Shadows crept in her periphery, always the same shape, rabbit ears, sharp grin. The doll seemed to shift places in her apartment. She'd leave it on the shelf, only to find it on her desk, in the kitchen, or on her pillow. She installed more cameras, desperate to catch proof. The footage showed her rising from bed at 3:17 a.m., approaching the doll, kneeling before it like a worshiper. Her lips moved in guttural syllables that weren't words. Her eyes rolled back in her skull. And just as the footage glitched, a second voice, deep and inhuman, bled through. The door is opening. Mia slammed her laptop shut, her breathing ragged. Fear was no longer just online. It was in her home, her body, her blood. Determined, Mia sought help. She remembered her grandmother's warnings, never trust toys with eyes that follow you. So she visited a weathered temple on the outskirts of the city, clutching a photo of the symbol. The old monk she approached took one look and stiffened. His voice was grave. This is not a toy. This is a mogwai chi, a demon vessel. The spirit inside was sealed centuries ago. To open it is to unchain what was bound. When you accepted it into your home, you invited it. You are the doorway. Mia trembled. How do I stop it? She whispered. The monk only shook his head. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. That night, Mia dreamt of a black forest. Twisted trees, endless shadows. Goblin figures with Labubu's face circled a fire, chanting. At the center stood a gaping portal of writhing darkness. And beyond the veil, a massive, many-eyed entity leaned forward, whispering in 1,000 voices. We see you. We are coming. She woke screaming, the doll sitting upright on her chest, its cracked eye reflecting her own terror. When Mia awoke the next morning, her apartment felt different. Heavier. The air tasted metallic like rust and damp earth. Every sound, the hum of her refrigerator, the creak of the floorboards, seemed amplified and intrusive. The Labubu sat on her desk, grinning. Always grinning. She told herself she must have placed it there, though she had no memory of doing so. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the footage from her new cameras. At first just static. Then, around 3 in the morning, the screen lit with her own pale figure. She stood over the doll, swaying like a reed in the wind, whispering. The words were guttural, fractured. Not Chinese, not English, but something far older, consonants that grated like stones grinding together. Then her own voice layered with another. A baritone growl speaking through her mouth. She is ready. She is almost opened. Mia slammed the laptop shut while rising in her throat. She staggered to the bathroom, clutching the sink. Her reflection stared back at her, trembling, pale, terrified. But then, her lips in the mirror moved before hers did. They curled into a wide grin, teeth too sharp. And in blood-red condensation across the glass, words formed. She is hungry. She screamed, smashing the mirror with her fist. Blood dripped down her knuckles, spiraling into the drain. When she looked again, the words were gone. Sleep no longer brought rest. Every night, she wandered into dreams of the black forest. Every night, the chanting grew louder, the goblin-faced figures multiplied, and the portal yawned wider. During the day, her fans noticed the change. Mia, are you okay? You don't look well. Why are your eyes twitching like that? This feels cursed. On her live streams, her smile would glitch. Once, for less than a second, her face distorted, mouth stretching into a jagged grin identical to Labubu's. Some viewers caught it, clipped it, shared it. Most dismissed it as a filter glitch. But Mia knew better. She tried to rid herself of the doll. She wrapped it in cloth and hurled it into the river. The next morning, it was waiting on her pillow. She burned it in the sink, flames licking its cracked glass eye until it hissed and melted. Hours later, the doll reappeared pristine on her shelf, no scorch marks, no cracks. She buried it in the park, beneath layers of earth. But that night, the scratching began beneath her bed. When she looked, there it was, grinning at her from the shadows, dirt still clinging to its ears. No matter what she did, the doll returned. Her apartment began to change with it. Shadows bled into the corners. The walls pulsed faintly, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Her lights flickered, stretching her silhouette into shapes with ears too long, teeth too sharp. Her notebooks filled themselves, scrawled in her handwriting. Looping spirals, inverted triskelions, phrases repeated dozens of times. The gate is thin. We see you. She is not the monster. She is the key. Mia avoided sleep, living on caffeine and adrenaline, but exhaustion claimed her anyway. Cameras captured her drawing vast symbols across her floor in black ink, arranging candles in a circle. She had no memory of buying candles. Her skin grew pallid, eyes sunken, but beneath the fatigue, something else stirred. A twitch, a grin, and a different kind of hunger. One night, she woke kneeling in her living room, her hands coated in blood. On the floor, drawn with her own veins offering, was a sigil sprawling from wall to wall. The same inverted triskelion, expanded into something complex, a geometry that pulsed as if alive. The doll floated above it, hovering, its cracked eye glowing faintly red. A deep voice echoed through the apartment, but not from her. The gate is thin. One more night. Mia collapsed to the ground, sobbing. She clawed at the sigil, tried to smear it, erase it, but the blood only spread wider, sinking into the wood, glowing faintly. She turned her camera on herself, desperate, whispering into the lens. If anyone sees this, it's not me anymore. It's inside me. Please don't open packages you didn't order. Just don't, it's not worth it. Her body spasmed. Her eyes rolled back, lips parting. And then another voice, guttural, layered, inhuman, spoke through her. We are hungry. We are almost through. The camera glitched, static tearing across the feed. When the image stabilized, Mia's body was moving with fluid, jerking motions like a puppet. Her grin was no longer hers. Her fans flooded the comments, horrified. Some thought it was performance art, a new horror ARG. But those who watched closely, they swore the fear in her eyes was real. Over the next days, her videos grew erratic. She stopped editing. Footage leaked of her muttering in dark rooms, arranging her mutilated toys in spirals, standing motionless for hours, staring directly into the lens. Her subscriber count skyrocketed. The internet couldn't look away. And with every view, every share, every comment, the entity grew stronger. Because attention was power. Belief was fuel. And Mia's suffering was the perfect ritual. The last video, the one recovered from the smashed SD card, began with heavy breathing. The lens shook as though the camera itself trembled. Mia stood naked in the sigil, blood dripping from her arms, her voice speaking a language not of this earth. Her skin glistened with sweat, her body convulsing. The walls of her apartment heaved like lungs. Shadows leaked from the vents, crawling across the ceiling like veins. The doll floated in the center, growing larger, its vinyl skin stretching, cracking, reshaping into something almost child-sized. Its grin widened until it split its face. Mia's voice broke into 2, then 3, then dozens. A chorus of shrieks and whispers, layered together, chanting. She is not the monster. She is the key to this all. The footage shook violently, static flooding half the frame. But through the distortion, a clear moment burned itself into the lens. Mia dropping to her knees. The doll hovering above her, its mouth opening impossibly wide. And from within its maw poured a swarm of tiny goblin creatures, dozens of miniature Labubus with gnashing teeth and glowing eyes. They scrambled over her skin, merging into tendrils of living shadow. And then all at once, the darkness surged into her mouth, her eyes, her lungs. Her scream cut into static, then silence. When she lifted her head again, her eyes were black. Her grin was Labubu's grin. And when she finally spoke, it was not Mia's voice. She was never the monster. She was the key. The camera cut to black. When the police entered Mia Chen's apartment, they found no trace of her. Her phone lay shattered in the kitchen sink, buzzing with endless notifications from concerned fans. Her cameras were destroyed, every SD card smashed, except one buried beneath the floorboards. And in the center of the living room, carved deep into the wood, was the sprawling blood sigil, still faintly pulsing as though alive. At its heart sat the Labubu doll. Only, it wasn't small anymore. The figure was nearly child-sized now, its limbs longer, vinyl skin stretched taut like parchment. Its cracked glass eye gleamed faintly crimson, and its painted grin had warped into something far too wide, as though the toy's face were splitting open from within. The apartment reeked of smoke, iron, and something else, something the officers couldn't place. Something primal. The smell of wet earth after a grave is dug. Mia was gone. The surviving SD card told the rest of the story. The footage opened with Mia standing in the blood circle, naked, trembling, her skin slick with sweat. She was chanting in a voice that shifted between her own and something infinitely deeper. The walls behind her rippled like fabric. paint peeled and curled as though trying to escape. A low hum filled the air, growing louder, deeper, until it rattled the camera itself. The Labubu doll hovered above the sigil, its ears twitching unnaturally, its mouth widening with each chant. And then it began. The walls breathed, literally expanding and contracting, groaning under the pressure of something pushing from the other side. From the corners of the room, shadows leaked like liquid, slithering across the floor, forming clawed hands that reached toward Mia. Her head snapped back violently, her eyes turning pure black. When her lips parted, it was not air that poured out, but smoke. Thick black smoke, writhing and alive. The doll's body split open down the middle, like a zipper unfastening. And from inside spilled hundreds of tiny goblin-faced creatures, their squeals shrill and metallic, like laughter distorted through broken speakers. They scuttled across the floor, vanishing into vents, into cupboards, into cracks in the wall. And from the hollowed shell of the doll, something vast and formless unfurled. A tendril of darkness, thick as a human torso, stretched out, piercing Mia's chest. She convulsed, blood spraying the sigil, but she did not fall. Instead, she inhaled. The shadow funneled into her mouth, into her lungs, until her veins bulged black beneath her skin. Her body jerked like a marionette. And when she finally opened her eyes, the camera caught it, not just black, not just empty. Her eyes were filled with eyes. Dozens of them. Tiny, moving, blinking eyes. She turned slowly to the lens, her grin impossibly wide. And in a voice layered with 1,000 whispers, she said, "She was never the monster. She was the key." The camera screeched with static. For a fraction of a second, a frame appeared. Not Mia, not the doll, but a horned figure, towering, cloaked in writhing shadows, its body a mosaic of too many eyes. It leaned toward the camera, its grin wider than its head, as though staring through the screen at whoever watched. Then the footage ended. Mia was never found. The case file lists her as missing under suspicious circumstances. Her fans speculated endlessly, ARG, performance art, psychotic break. Clips of her last videos spread like wildfire, reposted, shared, memed. And with each view, each comment, each replay, something invisible grew stronger. The police never released the final SD card publicly. But fragments leaked, whispered into online forums, replicated on dark corners of the web. Those who claimed to watch it said they felt something staring back through the screen. Some swore they began to see Labubu figures in their own homes, in the corner of their eyes, on the shelf where no toy had been before. 17 days later, a small toy store in Tokyo received a package. No return address. Wrapped in yellowed parchment, sealed with red wax. The shop owner assumed it was some promotional item, maybe a fan donation. They placed it in the back room until a young vlogger stopped by, filming a store tour. On camera, smiling brightly, the vlogger spotted the odd little box. "Oh my god, is this a Labubu release? This looks so rare. Can I open it?" The owner shrugged. The camera captured the parchment tearing, the wax snapping, the box opening. Inside sat a Labubu doll. It had a cracked eye. Inverted triskelion. The vlogger laughed nervously. "This is kinda creepy. But cute, right? Creepy cute. I love it." The camera glitched for a moment, the screen streaked with static. In the reflection of the vlogger's phone, for less than a second, the doll winked. The screen cut to black. And then, whispered so faintly that only those listening with headphones caught it, "We're always watching." The Labubu was never the true monster. It was the vessel. A keyhole carved into consumerism, disguised as collectible cuteness, slipped innocently into homes, onto shelves, into hearts. The act of unboxing, the ritual of attention, of belief, of viewership, was never innocent. It was a summoning. Every pair of eyes fed the thing behind the veil, every laugh at its grin loosened the bars of its cage. Mia wasn't cursed because she was unlucky. She was chosen because she had an audience. Thousands of viewers. Thousands of witnesses. Each click was a prayer. Each was like a sacrifice. Each replay another crack in the door. And the door is almost open. So now I'll ask you, how many times have you unboxed something online? How many times have you watched, replayed, shared, commented, laughed at something meant to be cute? What if, in the corner of your room right now, something small is watching? Something with glassy eyes, cracked just slightly, smiling too wide. What if it's been waiting? And what if you've already given it permission? By that I mean after all, you're still watching. Let us know in the comments section, have you got a Labubu doll? If you do, have you noticed anything creepy happening at your home? And after hearing this story, would you buy one of these dolls?
Ready for spine-chilling tales that will haunt your thoughts? Subscribe to Forgotten Storyteller for eerie narrations, unsettling mysteries, and haunting stories you won't forget. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Join us, if you dare,